Hello, and thank you for joining us at the Gut Health Solutions Seminar. Did you know that 90% of individuals taking medications still continue to have symptoms? Today, we're going to be discussing why this happens and how it relates to your gut health. As we go through this seminar, we encourage you to think of any questions you might have. And if they're not addressed during the presentation, write them down so we can discuss them later. We're really hoping today to be able to show you something that your doctor already should have shown you that'll help you get some answers to the questions that might have been bothering you for a very long time. Our goal today is to help you understand your gastrointestinal system, especially the gut, aka the small intestine, and how that could be the culprit for underlying conditions that involve your thyroid, hormones, immune system, digestive system, and even your brain function. Knowledge is power, and we'd like to help you empower yourself with the knowledge about how your body works. If you decide that you're willing, we'd love to give you an opportunity to actually take action and be able to address these issues, and hopefully get the resolution that you may have been looking for a very long time. Let's get started. Hippocrates had it right. He was the father of medicine, and he said, "Let thy food be thy medicine, look well to the spine for health, and all disease begins in the gut." So it's not a new idea that the gut is the mother of the body, because it feeds the rest of the entire body. Every organ, tissue, and cell is fed by the gut. So thank you for taking this time with us today as we go over the importance of gut health. We are so excited to share this information with you because it is the central component in every single health complaint that we see in our office. If you have leaky gut syndrome, you are not alone. 80% of the U.S. population has some degree of leaky gut. Leaky gut conditions are the underlying cause of many chronic illnesses. It can disguise itself as fatigue, anxiety, depression, digestive symptoms, weight problems, asthma, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, irritable bowel, kidney disease, psoriasis, chronic fatigue, thyroid issues, hormone imbalances, immune dysfunction, and even heart failure. But most people are unaware that these symptoms are related to the small intestines, better known as the gut. We have a saying here at this clinic. It is that if nothing changes, then nothing changes, both for the doctor and the patient. What we mean by that is that so many patients get caught up in a cycle of never-ending, increasing medical interventions. What usually happens is the patient goes to a doctor because they have some symptom, the doctor performs some lab tests, and the labs might change, but the symptoms stay the same, even after they prescribe a medication. The problem continues to get worse, and so increasing dosages or increasing types of medication are prescribed by the doctor, and the patient still doesn't get relief and still doesn't feel better until eventually they're told there's nothing else the doctor can do and they'll just have to live with it. Now, even though this is a common situation, it is possible to get out of the cycle, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Even if you've heard from your doctor that there's nothing else they can do for you and you just have to live with it, well, that may not be true. There are other options for you that actually address the underlying causes of your condition, instead of just altering the lab tests with medications. This picture comes from an article from a business magazine called Epidemic. It's an artist's representation of our current medical standard of care. It's pretty clear what's going on here. For every symptom, what do we have? Well, we have a medication for it. What we have is a medical system that's fundamentally a reactive system, not a proactive system. It never looks at the underlying causes of a problem. All it does is medicate the symptoms. That's like trying to get rid of smoke without putting out the fire that's causing the smoke. We also have an insurance crisis. Our country's health is going in one direction, and insurance coverage is going in the other. We've been bombarded with an epidemic of chronic diseases, and there is no medication, injection, or surgery that will correct a chronic condition. Yet that's what insurance covers, so of course patients are pushed in this direction. Our healthcare system was originally built off of the acute care model. What that means is that if you break your arm or get the flu or have a near-death emergency, it's great at fixing those things, but what it's not so good at is treating chronic conditions. Conditions caused by increased gut permeability, aka leaky gut syndrome, are chronic conditions, and that's what we specialize in, whereas the conventional medical system leaves a lot to be desired. A huge contributor to the current healthcare crisis is that 75% of all doctor visits are patients that are coming in for chronic metabolic conditions. Most of these metabolic conditions have the same culprit. That culprit is intestinal permeability, or leaky gut syndrome. When your small intestines have increased permeability, things like toxins, microbes, undigested food particles can escape from your intestines and travel throughout your body via your bloodstream. We'll discuss more about how this happens later. However, the main categories of chronic conditions from a gut not being taken care of include thyroid disease, some heart disease, fibromyalgia, hormonal imbalances, prediabetes, brain ailments like depression, and autoimmune disease with all its byproducts. The problem we have with treating metabolic conditions is that we rely on drugs, surgeries, and injections to try to fix them. But these are all acute care approaches, which means emergency care. Metabolic conditions are chronic conditions, and they require a systematic approach to correct. It doesn't make sense to try to get rid of the smoke without putting out the fire. For example, a diabetic might take medications to control their lab numbers, but really there are 2 or 3 things that are causing their blood sugars to go out of balance in the first place. Wouldn't it make more sense to address the root causes and bring the lab numbers down through lifestyle changes? Another example is someone with a slight plaque buildup in the arteries that's put on an aspirin every day to thin the blood so the blood flows through the heart better, with no instruction on how to get rid of the plaques or avoid them in the first place. Now, a lot of doctors are very quick to prescribe medications, and at times they act as if there could be no possible side effects from these medications. But we would like to encourage you to take the time to look at the underlying causes of these common disorders that are associated with leaky gut syndrome. We've broken down these common disorders into 5 main categories. The categories are cognitive brain challenges, thyroid conditions, hormone imbalances, digestive issues, and autoimmune diseases. Let's take a look at the first category, which is brain and cognitive dysfunctions that can be caused by leaky gut syndrome. Did you know that depression, anxiety, poor concentration, memory loss, decrease in a sense of humor, and even indecisiveness can be linked to leaky gut? Because the gut and the brain share such a close connection. And unfortunately, right now, doctors aren't looking for the root cause of these ailments. Instead, they're very quick to prescribe medications, such as Lexapro or Cymbalta for depression, and Adderall and Vyvanse for concentration and memory, and Xanax for anxiety. These medications have a host of their own problems and side effects. Some common side effects of antidepressant medications include constant nausea, weight gain, loss of sexual desire, erectile dysfunction, fatigue, drowsiness, insomnia, dry mouth, blurry vision, and digestive issues. There's also a huge connection between your thyroid and your gut. Studies show that intestinal permeability, or leaky gut, allows undigested food particles into the bloodstream and initiates an autoimmune attack. Studies show that both T4 and T3, thyroid hormones, protect the intestinal lining from being disturbed. These are just a few examples of the connection between the gut and the thyroid, and the vicious cycle that you need to break by going after both the gut and the thyroid at the same time, without relying on medications to do so. 20 million Americans suffer from thyroid conditions. 60% of those people are unaware that they even have a thyroid condition, and 1 out of 8 individuals will develop a thyroid condition over their lifetime. The thyroid conditions that you may be dealing with today are Graves' disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and hyper or hypothyroidism. The common medications for these are Synthroid and levothyroxine. The unfortunate thing about these medications is they have a host of negative side effects, including irregular heartbeat, chest pain, fatigue, hair loss, digestive issues, excessive sweating, and sleepiness. Now let's take a look at the category of hormones and how it relates to gut health. When they're in balance, our hormones can keep us feeling our best, ready to tackle each and every day with vitality. But even small imbalances to this delicate system can cause our entire body to go haywire, leaving us feeling depleted and out of sorts. The good news is that research indicates that taking care of your gut health can be the key to hormonal balance throughout your body. But what happens if we don't? Hormone imbalances can cause mood swings, low libido, infertility, weight gain, trouble sleeping, and even hair loss. And unfortunately, there aren't many treatments, except for bioidentical hormones and synthetic hormones, which are basically known as hormone replacement therapy. But once again, these come with a host of side effects as well, such as hot flashes, decreased sexual desire, loss of bone density, and increased risk of fractures, osteoporosis, erectile dysfunction, fatigue, increased risk of diabetes and heart attacks and strokes, weight gain, decreased muscle mass, anemia, and possible memory loss. The next category is digestive issues, such as gas, bloating, indigestion, heartburn, acid reflux, diarrhea, constipation, or irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. Even Crohn's and ulcerative colitis can have a relationship with your gut as well. This one's a little bit easier to understand since it directly deals with your digestive system, especially your small intestines. But please remember that most elements from leaky gut syndrome have no digestive symptomatology at all, sometimes no symptoms in any part of your body. Medications such as Prilosec, Zantac, or Nexium is the treatment of choice for these digestive systems, which of course they still have side effects, such as fevers, cold symptoms such as stuffy nose, sneezing, sore throat, stomach pain, gas, nausea, vomiting, mild diarrhea, or headache. But what we really want you to remember is that the later stages of intestinal permeability, or leaky gut syndrome, result in our immune systems not functioning properly. When this continues over a long period of time, the process of autoimmune disease starts to form. This is the last category of ailments connected to your gut, and truthfully, it's also the most dangerous. Things like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, celiac disease, multiple sclerosis, and fibromyalgia are all considered autoimmune diseases. The main medications used today for autoimmune conditions are prednisone, Plaquenil, Cytoxan, and methotrexate. These are immunosuppressant drugs, meaning they suppress the immune system to hopefully stop the autoimmune attack. The most significant side effect of immunosuppressant drugs is an increased risk of getting infections. Other less serious side effects can include loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, increased hair growth, and trembling hands. Not too long ago, there were just a handful of autoimmune conditions that we would refer to as such: rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, celiac disease, and psoriasis. Now, there are hundreds of diseases that are either confirmed autoimmune diseases or there's very strong scientific evidence for autoimmune origins. There's now what is considered an autoimmune spectrum. We know that you might not be able to read all of these disease processes that are listed here on the screen, but we wanted to show you at a glance just how many ailments and disease processes there are out there that we now know are connected to an autoimmune origin. This is just the beginning of the list of the spectrum of autoimmune diseases. They're in alphabetical order, and this page only lists the diseases that begin with letters A through C. This is letters D through N on this page, and O through Z on this page. Now, everybody's situation is different, and in some cases, medications may be your best option, but that is very seldom the case. There are other options that may actually help you feel better, rather than just altering your lab results to make them look better. And by the way, this isn't your doctor's fault. They care about you just as much as we do. It's just that the system itself pushes everybody, doctors and patients included, down the path of treating chronic diseases with an acute care approach, prescribing medications but never really addressing the true root cause.
The American healthcare system is badly broken.
The present system doesn't work, and it's going to take us down. We need a whole new kind of medicine.
We're in the grip of a very big industry, and it doesn't want to stop making money.
If I spend 5 minutes with you and then put in one of these stents, I probably get paid $1,500. For me to spend 45 minutes with a patient to try to figure out what their true problem is, probably get paid $15. It's a completely irrational system.
We don't have a healthcare system in this country. We have a disease management system.
We're spending almost twice as much in America as any other country on earth, but our lifespan isn't even in the top 20.
30,000 Medicare recipients die each year from care they didn't need. That's the equivalent of a jumbo jet crashing every single week. If the aviation industry killed as many people, we'd be up in arms.
The administration pays you based on how many patients you see.
All right, who's next?
If you try and buck the system, someone says, what can we do to get your productivity up? I'm not interested in getting my productivity up. I'm interested in helping patients.
We're seeing the military just being a microcosm of the problem society's having.
Soldiers' use of prescription drugs has tripled in the past 5 years.
This medications I was on.
Only by accepting that the American healthcare system is badly broken will we be able to seek out the escape fires, the potential solutions. There are answers.
One company has figured out how to lower healthcare costs by more than 40%.
We provide incentives for people to engage in healthier behaviors.
The Army Surgeon General directed that we establish the Pain Management Task Force to take a look at alternatives to narcotics.
I was skeptical, so skeptical.
I've gotten a lot of inspiration, a different perspective. There's a different way of doing things that is possible.
If I think about what healthcare could be like, it would have a lot more care in it.
The healthcare system is unsustainable. We're really mortgaging the future. Not just the health of healthcare, we're talking about the health of the nation.
If you'll pardon the pun, let's switch gears here and talk about how we treat our bodies compared to how we treat our cars. Did you know that most people actually treat their body worse than they would treat their car? Don't believe me? Okay, well, let me ask you a question. If you were driving along in your car and your check engine light came on, what would you do? Well, you'd probably take it to the mechanic, and they'd check it out and see if there was something wrong internally with the car. And if there was an internal problem, they'd identify it and fix it, and the light would go off because the internal problem was fixed. What if I told you that the last time my check engine light came on in my car, I took it to the mechanic and said, oh yeah, don't even bother looking under the hood. Could you just press that reset button so that light doesn't come on and bother me anymore while I'm driving? Well, that doesn't make any sense, does it? If I were to do that and leave the body shop, the internal problem would cause the light to come right back on because we never addressed the root cause. If I keep doing that, the problem would grow and get bigger until the car eventually just stopped working or blew up on me. But this is exactly what we're doing with our leaky gut conditions and the symptoms that come along with them. You know, we are so lucky because our bodies have a built-in alarm system, just like a check engine light on a car. Your body might be sounding the alarm right now if you have symptoms. Just think about all the symptoms that we discussed earlier relating to leaky gut. This is your body's check engine light coming on and telling you that there's a problem. Now, if this happened with your car, you wouldn't want to just reach into your glove box and put a Band-Aid over your check engine light to cover it up so you don't have to see it. You'd want to go to the mechanic and fix the internal problem that's causing the check engine light to come on in the first place. But what happens when we experience the same warning signs with our health? Our body's check engine light is on. It's trying to tell us that there's a problem. But if we ignore it or mask it with medications, the internal problem is going to keep growing. Then it's going to grow some more, and finally it'll reach a point of no return, where the condition is no longer going to be controllable. Right now, we may still have a choice to listen to these warning signs and take care of the problem before it gets out of control and reaches a point of no return. In order to break out of the cycle that the conventional system pushes us into, we have to think outside of the box. That's the conventional medicine box. But the good news is, you already think more like a wellness doctor than you might realize. The type of care we practice is called holistic care. Some people call it functional medicine. Now, the main difference between the type of care we practice here and the type of care that you'll find in the conventional medical system is that we're actually looking for the underlying causes of conditions rather than looking for medications to simply cover up the symptoms. If that makes sense to you, then we're already on the same page. Imagine for a minute that you have a plant and you see that your plant is wilting. What might you do to help the plant get healthy again? Well, you might think maybe it needs something, such as water, or maybe more sunlight, or maybe even some nutrients like fertilizer. Those are logical things to think about when we see a wilting plant. If adding things doesn't work, well, maybe the plant has some bugs on it or some bad soil, toxic soil, that might be causing it to become unhealthy. This is exactly the way that a holistic doctor thinks. The problem is that we tend not to see a sick human and think the same things that we might think when we see a wilting plant. In fact, according to the top website that's used for medical conditions, which is WebMD, they say that the number one part of their website that people use is the symptom tracker. In other words, people are going on WebMD and they're typing in their symptoms and searching for them and saying, okay, what medical condition do I have? That's okay if you want to find out what you have, and we want to do the same thing because we want to diagnose what you have in order to address the underlying causes of it. But the problem is that most people's next thought is, okay, well, what medication can I take to try to resolve this problem? That's the big issue, because drug companies literally spend billions of dollars every year on marketing, and it's all to make you think that the drugs are the solution to your problems. But like you're probably experiencing right now, and you might be really frustrated about this, the drug doesn't always resolve the symptoms. In fact, with leaky gut conditions, a lot of people get initial results when they start taking medications, only for the problem to just come back and be a whole lot worse later on down the line. They might have problems with gaining weight and not being able to lose it. They might feel tired and fatigued. They might have brain fog, achy joints, trouble sleeping, cold hands and feet. These are all real problems that affect people's quality of life. Now, these symptoms can be so frustrating because you might be taking medications, but yet your doctor says, well, your lab tests are normal. See, we have a system that has people trapped into feeling like medications are the only options. Yet those medications are not addressing the root cause of the problem. Even though your labs might be normal, you're not feeling normal, and that's what we want to talk about next. We want to show you why you might still have symptoms even if you're taking medication, because if you understand that, then you can also understand what you can do to help get rid of those symptoms by addressing the real root cause. The digestive system is the mother of all systems because it feeds the entire body. As you can see here, there are several different parts of your digestive system. Today we're going to focus on the small intestine, which is a crucial part of digestion. Now, the small intestine is the main site where food is digested, and 90% or more of your digestion happens here, in this 22-foot-long tube. What your body doesn't absorb from the small intestine is dumped into the 5-foot-long tube, the large intestines. The large intestine absorbs water from the digestive waste and empties the waste into the rectum, where it is then passed by you. Now, we're going to spend most of our time today talking about the small intestines because this is where most individuals have most of their issues. Everywhere you turn, people are talking about leaky gut. It's gained a lot of attention lately for several reasons. But to understand where the term leaky gut comes from, we must first understand the architecture of the intestinal tract. We have these things called villi, sticking up like little finger-like projections, and we also have crypts that are going down. These are normal structures found in everyone's gut. When the architecture of the intestinal tract gets damaged, we have a serious problem. When the gut gets inflamed by pathogens, inflammatory food, and from stress that we're under, the villi are destroyed or blunted, so the nutrient absorption then starts to falter. The crypts get deeper and deeper, and often we have infections that are deep in these crypts. The space between the cells gets overly large, and then we develop leaky gut. Those are the three architectural changes that happen when the gut is inflamed. When we say leaky gut, we're talking about villi atrophy, increased intestinal crypt depth, as well as the space between the cells getting larger. Every organ, tissue, and cell is fed by your gut. When one uses the term gut, we're talking about the small intestines. The gut is the central component in every single health complaint. When we're thinking about the gut and the gastrointestinal tract getting out of balance, it's because of two primary problems. If we correct both of these problems, we're going to correct the entire gastrointestinal tract. The two primary problems are food and pathogens. Getting the inflammatory foods out of the diet, such as gluten, dairy, and sugar, and getting the pathogens out of the body as well, such as yeast, bacteria, and parasites, this is what it takes to truly get your gut healed and digestion working properly. If the person is infection-free and they're eating anti-inflammatory foods regularly, the gut is going to repair itself, and then you're going to see everything else respond. From anxiety and depression to fatigue and joint pain, everything is going to improve when the gut is functioning properly. In addition to these two primary factors, we must briefly talk about a silent but deadly condition which research has shown breaks down the human entity faster than anything. Do you know what it is? You got it. Stress. Emotional stress is the #1 driver for elevating cortisol. And when your cortisol goes up, we become catabolic, which means you're breaking down tissue. You're going to break down lean muscle mass in the lining of the gut tissue. Everyone who is emotionally stressed is creating a leaky gut. You don't have to have parasites or gluten intolerance to develop a leaky gut. Just being stressed is going to make you catabolic. When you're breaking down your own gut lining, you need amino acids like glutamine because you're using those amino acids for fuel. That's what catabolic means. It means tissue breakdown to get fuel. Mucosal membranes are the interface between the external environment and the internal environment of the body. This is how we absorb nutrients, and unfortunately, it's also how we absorb toxins. Most pathogens get into the body by binding to and penetrating the mucosal membranes. If your mucosal membranes in your digestive tract are weak, you're going to absorb toxins at a much greater rate than you should. Pathogens are also going to be able to get in more easily, and that's going to cause digestive problems from all the pathogens and liver issues from all the toxins. So this continues to happen. The gut gets more and more damaged, and also the villi construction becomes impaired, so they're partially damaged all the time. Now the individual has villi atrophy, which is very similar to Berber carpet instead of a shag carpet, or cut grass as opposed to long. We need those villi to be long, as they normally are when they're functioning properly in a healthy gut, because it increases the surface area for absorption of nutrients. So if they're short or deformed, that's going to cause malabsorption, and the person is going to become nutrient deficient. At the same time as they're not absorbing nutrients, they're going to be excessively absorbing toxins. Because the mucosal barrier is failing, nutrients don't get in, but toxins do. See, what you might not know is that when your gut is leaky, the junctions in the intestinal walls that keep your gastrointestinal lining tight become loose, which allows proteins, bacteria, yeast, and viruses to enter the bloodstream. Additionally, some people have blunted villi, the small, hair-like projections that absorb nutrients, which means they can't absorb food properly, and they'll become deficient in vitamins and minerals, even if they're getting plenty of them in their diet. This causes a wave of inflammation that triggers nutrient deficiencies, such as vitamin D, omega-3s, B vitamins, selenium, zinc, and magnesium, just to name a few. Now let's briefly look at the top triggers that cause leaky gut. Before really getting into how to correct leaky gut or intestinal permeability, we need to expose the major culprits. And the major culprits are gluten, candida, sugar, and undetected food sensitivities. The first one we'll discuss is gluten. Gluten is one of the leading causes of damage to the gut lining. Gluten is a sticky protein that's found in wheat, barley, and rye. Gluten can be a very inflammatory food for a lot of people. Most people will say, well, I don't have celiac disease, so I don't have to stay away from gluten. But we feel that this is far from the truth. When individuals with celiac disease consume gluten, their immune system reacts by destroying part of the small intestine that absorbs vital nutrients. However, you can still develop gluten sensitivity and never be diagnosed with celiac disease. So we believe everyone should try to avoid gluten, whether or not they're dealing with celiac disease. Let's take a deeper look at the reasons why. Gluten can actually be highly addictive because of something called gluteomorphines. Gluteomorphines are morphine-like compounds that come from the breakdown of gluten. When people have problems with gluteomorphines, they'll eat a piece of bread, for example, and they'll feel really good, even if it's making them sick. It also makes them feel a little bit high, so they start craving that bread, and it's very difficult to get people with this problem to stop reaching for gluten-like foods. Because of these morphine-like compounds, the gluten can impact the brain, and then the brain can impact the gut. See, the gut is not isolated. It can cause problems anywhere else in the body. Since gluten can affect the brain, we work hard to get individuals off of gluten. What we see a lot of times when individuals do this is they have major improvements with depression and anxiety if they're challenged by those. Because of the gluten sensitivity and brain connection, the cytokines, which are produced in the natural inflammatory response, are going to block the production of neurotransmitters involved in mood. That's why an individual starts to get lower serotonin and dopamine levels simply because they're inflamed. Removing gluten will help with this. And that's why resolving gut problems can help with chronic inflammation, which is the root cause of all disease. Another trigger we see in a lot of individuals that creates gut issues is candida overgrowth and sugar. They deserve to be in the discussion together because they basically go hand in hand. Candida is a yeast, and this is part of the human body's microflora. But when it's in abundance, it becomes a problem. When it's out of control, we call it Candida albicans, fungal overgrowth, or yeast overgrowth. Too much sugar in our diet, toxins, birth control pills, and food sensitivities are the main reasons that allow Candida to grow and destroy the good bacteria in our guts. Another thing that yeast does is it blocks nutrient absorption. So that's why in our program, which we'll discuss in a minute, we focus on removing what robs nutrient absorption and begin to seal your gut lining before detoxing. There's no surprise that we're all pretty much on board with the idea that sugar isn't the best thing for your body. But why is it so bad for your gut bacteria? Well, most of the bacteria in your gut help your body out, but about 15% of the bacteria in there have some negative effects on your overall health. Most of the time, this isn't a problem because as long as the good bacteria outweigh the bad by about 6 times, things tend to work out pretty well. However, if the balance of bacteria shifts more to the undesirable amount of bad bacteria, then you start to have more of a negative effect on your entire digestive tract. This leaves you feeling less than your best. So what does this have to do with sugar? Well, just like you, your bacteria have to eat, and they get their food from the food that we consume. So the more sugar or sweeteners we eat, the more bad bacteria can grow, and eventually they start outnumbering the good bacteria as well. So in other words, sugar feeds your candida and bad bacteria. Candida loves sugar and thrives on it. So if you're eating sugar, you're feeding the bad bacteria, even though you might be staying away from gluten. So to truly help the gut, you have to do both. A lot of times people mix up food allergies with food intolerances or sensitivities. If you immediately after eating a certain food, even a microscopic amount, get your throat tightening up or break out in hives, you're experiencing anaphylaxis, which is a type of body shock. Then that means you have a food allergy, and of course you'd want to consult with a board-certified allergist. This is not really something you can self-diagnose. On the other hand, symptoms like constipation, headaches, heartburn, fatigue, bloating, difficulty swallowing may well be related to a food intolerance or sensitivity. Sometimes it'll get worse 1 to 3 hours after consuming the food, but often the timing makes it unclear if it's diet or something else that's causing your problem. We'll show you in our program the best and easiest way to determine food sensitivities or intolerances without testing. Over time, these food sensitivities can start to wear down your immune system. The immune system and the digestive system are very closely linked. Your immune system is like the armed forces of your body, and one of the weapons it produces is known as antibodies or immunoglobulins. The different branches of the armed forces related to our immune system are immunoglobulins M, A, G, D, and E. The IG stands for immunoglobulin, and the letter that follows it stands for the particular arm of the immune system, if you will. IgM is the first antibody that's sent out when a threat is detected. IgA follows up a response launch. IgG responds when offending agents enter the bloodstream. This is the one that picks up on food sensitivities and intolerances, and things that get into the bloodstream from a leaky gut. IgD. Medical research is not sure exactly what this immunoglobulin does, but some researchers say it might signal B cells, which are immune cells. IgE stimulates release of histamine molecules. This is the immunoglobulin that causes allergic reactions. It's also worth mentioning that you actually have 4 different immune systems. You have the Kupffer cells that are found in your liver, you have the white blood cells that are found in your bloodstream, you have the glia cells that are found in your brain, and the largest immune system you have is actually in your gut. That's why it's so important to take care of the gut. Before getting off the topic of the immune system, we want to share with you how the arms of the immune system work. Just as there's a right arm and a left arm to the human body, with one arm being dominant over the other, the immune system works similarly to that. It acts like a protective handgun that fires chemical bullets at invaders, as well as heat-seeking missiles. You have the innate immune system, which would be the non-dominant arm, and it fires chemical bullets called cytokines at invaders. Then you have the adaptive immune system, which is the dominant arm, and it acts as the heat-seeking missiles to antigens that are marked on invaders. This is used for backup when the chemical bullets aren't enough. The innate immune system sends out first responders, but if the exposure to the foreign invaders are too great, The adaptive immune system sends out the big guns, the antibodies. Antibodies protect your body from toxic exposure to things such as food, mold, stress, hormones, and bugs. But remember, they're like heat-seeking missiles, and the heat seekers, unfortunately, may cause collateral damage. You might be wondering how the adaptive immune system's antibodies, the heat-seeking missiles, can cause collateral damage. Well, there are antibodies that seek toxins, but there are also autoantibodies that seek our own tissues. Autoantibodies are antibodies that mistakenly target and react with a person's own tissues or organs. One or more autoantibodies may be produced by a person's immune system when it fails to distinguish between invader or tissue. In other words, when your gut is leaking, also known as intestinal permeability, undigested proteins and toxins are invading the bloodstream. This will cause you to start the process of an autoantibody reaction. The way we're designed is that antibodies are supposed to fight bacteria and viruses in our bloodstream. They're not designed to fight toxins and undigested proteins. When this is left uncorrected, it can start a cascade of autoantibodies, which lead to autoimmune responses and then autoimmune diseases and disorders. The stages of autoimmune activation can start as local gastrointestinal symptoms and are accompanied by increased food sensitivities. Individuals most of the time ignore the initial onset. However, remember that some people have no gastrointestinal symptoms at all. Instead, they just start to develop IgG reactions that start leading to other warning symptoms and signs, like headaches and joint pain. If left undetected and uncorrected, the floodgates of autoimmune conditions could start to open. It turns out that we're only 10% human, metaphorically speaking, because for every human cell in our body, there are about 10 microbes. With that being said, there are different types of microbes. Microbes are pretty cool. They are commensal in nature, meaning they're harmless, and they're mutualist, meaning that they're helping us and we're helping them. About 99% of the genetic information in our body is microbial, so this can impact our health in a really significant way. The microbiome is so important for so many different reasons, everything from asthma to diabetes to blood sugar control to memory function. Every time you turn around, there's another research study being done about the microbiome and how it impacts us. We restore gut integrity and health by healing from the inside out. We take a comprehensive approach to treating gut health, and we feel strongly that the best outcomes are a result of addressing the body as a whole. A critical and unique part of our treatment plan involves a series of comprehensive stages that put the body back into an optimal position to heal itself. The body is able to heal itself, it just sometimes needs a little help. We go out and we look for the newest cutting-edge technology and research to treat gut health issues. We've found that if you attack gut health from every angle and leave no stone unturned, that 85 to 90% of our patients get results and get better. When we talk about healing the gut and restoring the microbiome, we like to use the example of rebuilding a house that had once caught on fire. When a house is on fire, you don't think about calling the carpenters right away. The very first thing that's on your mind is getting in touch with the fire department and putting the fire out. Same thing with us. Our house protects our external bodies, just as the microbiome is protecting our internal body. So the first phase of our gut healing protocol is called extinguish and seal. Just as if a home is on fire, the first thing we need to do is extinguish the flames and wet down some areas of the house so it'll be harder for the fire to spread. We must first extinguish the things that are causing the fires in our gut, which are possible parasites, candida, and food sensitivities. And then we need to seal any gaps that may have developed in our gut lining. The way we go about doing this is removing the food sensitivities by implementing a specific food guidance program tailored to your condition. This will help certain food sensitivities and intolerances our body may be experiencing to get under control. During the extinguish phase, we'll guide you through a process to reduce candida. We learned earlier about the importance of reducing candida. By providing you with much-needed assistance against gut pathogens like candida, we'll help you control your sugar cravings and put an end to the candida feeding frenzy once and for all. We'll provide protocols to support a healthy intestinal microbial environment and to safely eliminate parasites. In addition, we'll provide support for a healthy intestinal lining and optimal gastrointestinal function. We now know that a healthy intestinal lining is essential for digestion, liver function, immune function, and overall health. So back to the burning house example. After the fire is extinguished and the area is sealed, we call upon help to remove the debris from the fire scene, which leads us to the second phase of restoring gut health, clearing debris. In order to do this properly, the inflammation, i.e. the fire, has to be controlled. Once the environment of the gut is controlled, it's time to clear out the excess debris. No, this doesn't mean running to the bathroom, just a cleansing at a blood and cellular level. In our second phase of restoring gut health, in conjunction with a modified elimination lifestyle diet, we address gastrointestinal and liver function, as well as cytokine metabolism, which helps control inflammation. We also use antioxidants, minerals, and nutrients designed to support a healthy response to environmental toxins, especially heavy metal toxicity. This will support the metabolism in detoxification of heavy metals. We want to make sure that we detox any invasions that can further damage the gut. To further support the digestive system, we set the body up to allow it to kill anything related to viral or bacterial disease-causing microorganisms, helping boost the immune system, regenerate, and heal cells. Last but not least, since the gut lining has been damaged for quite some time and is now sealed, the blood must be cleansed. With our preparatory process, we help bind toxins and metals and pull them out of the body safely. The reason most people do not do well on detoxification programs is because their gut hasn't been sealed, and they don't have a good binding agent to pull foreign invaders out of the body. So by detoxifying the body, cleansing the blood and cells, we improve blood flow and circulation. Now, I know this might sound complicated, but it's all happening synergistically together with a few simple changes and additions. Now that we've extinguished what was blocking nutrient absorption, sealed your gut lining, and cleared the debris from the aftermath, it's time to implement phase 3 of the gut healing program. We call it the rebuilding phase. Going back to our house example once again, now that we've extinguished the fire and sealed the area, as well as removed the debris, now it's time to call in the carpenters to rebuild. We've gotten the parasites, candida, and food sensitivities at bay, while sealing our gut in our extinguish and seal phase. We've removed viral and bacterial pathogens, microbials, and heavy metals with our clearing debris phase. Now it's time to rebuild the microbiome. We will first reintroduce the balance of a healthy digestive tract by addressing its acidifying factors and balancing hydrochloric acids and providing the body with proteolytic enzymes. Hydrochloric acid and glutamic acid are necessary for the adequate absorption of proteins, calcium, B vitamins, and iron. Then we reintroduce the little carpenters that are found in our proprietary formula, which provides beneficial bacteria, including the extensively studied HBN019 strain of Bifidobacterium lactis. These live organisms have proven health benefits and have been tested for epithelial adhesion and resistance to lower pH. In other words, many probiotics cannot survive the digestive tract past the stomach and make it to the large intestine where they're most beneficial. However, with our formulas, we're getting them to all the right places. And last but certainly not least, we use our immune formula, which helps modulate a normal immune response by using proline-rich polypeptides, also known as PRPs. This helps the immune system by supporting the production of IgG antibodies. Throughout our lives, we help shape our own microbiomes, and they adapt to changes in our environment. The foods we eat, how much we sleep, the amount of bacteria we're exposed to on a daily basis, and the level of stress we have all determine the state of our microbiome. So now you have an understanding of how your gut plays a role in preventing and reversing metabolic conditions. Knowledge is power, but only if it's applied. So please let us help you go live the life you were designed to live by giving you your blueprint for gut health. What are your choices? Well, you could go to your primary care doctor and get drugs to mask your symptoms, or you could get referred to your specialist and get more medications. But the medications don't change with the specialist. The only difference is, if you go to a specialist, you're seeing a candidate for exploratory testing and surgeries that still don't address the underlying problem. You've heard this before. You have to live with it. Nothing can be done. I'm here to tell you today that this is absolutely not true. Once you start addressing the underlying causes of your condition and fixing them, the body knows exactly how to repair itself and start enjoying life again. The Blueprint clinics across this country help people with leaky gut syndrome and metabolic conditions. You're in good hands with the practitioner who's chosen to use this program. So, who should come to see us? If you are experiencing brain or cognition challenges, such as depression, anxiety, poor concentration, memory loss, lost your sense of humor, or are feeling indecisive, if you're experiencing thyroid conditions such as Graves' disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, hyper or hypothyroidism, hormonal imbalances such as mood swings, low libido, infertility, weight gain, trouble sleeping or hair loss, or digestive issues such as gas, bloating, indigestion, heartburn, acid reflux, diarrhea, constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, Crohn's disease, or ulcerative colitis, and you want to be proactive with your health, then you should come see us. We're looking for two types of patients. Patient type number 1, people that are all in with their health. They value health, they want to live longer to be with their family, they value productivity, performance in life, and they want to thrive with their life and their health. Type 2, the exact same type as patient number 1, but they may fall off the wagon here and there, but that's okay because our team is here to help them and get them back on track. These are the two types of patients that we accept into our program. Who should not come in to see us? Well, if you're looking for a quick fix and you don't want to take the time to invest into your health, then we would not be a good match for each other. We are looking to work with people who want to get better. We are extremely confident and competent in what we do. We don't take recommendations from outside sources. We do our own research and we get the best and the latest technology to help with your health conditions. We're looking for people who want to make a commitment to their health. You're going to have to meet us more than halfway because this is your health. We have a program that'll help get you better. We'll be there with you along the way, supporting you, but you have to do the work in order to make it happen. And as long as you're committed, you can expect results. Gut health can deteriorate and get worse over time. This can make any existing problems even harder to solve. That's why waiting is not the best idea. This is something that you have the choice, you have the power to address right now, to start working on right now. But you have to decide and you have to make the choice to start that process of taking control of your health. So, if you do want to take action, what can you expect? Well, our process is very simple. The first thing you'll do is fill out a patient application form before visiting with the doctor. Once the doctor meets with you, they'll go over your health history and evaluation, and they'll sit down with you and talk about if you're a good candidate for our program. Since you've been educated with our seminar, you've saved a lot of time in this process. You're qualified for a reduced price evaluation. At this point, usually insurance questions come up, and as we explained earlier, insurance is really there for the acute care model, which covers medications and surgeries. Your chronic condition does not need acute care for full recovery. Metabolic disease is a silent process. Symptoms slowly creep into your life and they gradually get worse over time until you realize that you suddenly have multiple symptoms that you're struggling with. You may be at the beginning of this process or maybe near the end. This next video really describes two clear paths for your health. It's a perfect description of where life can go. We are here for you. You're in great hands with the practitioners who are using this program, and it would be silly not to take advantage of our evaluation process and see if we can help you.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.